And now, to talk about the great Anderson Silva, who better to get on the show than the great Guilherme Cruz, a man who has covered Anderson Silva's career extensively, and to give us the Brazilian reaction, of course. Guilherme, first of all, how are you? And congratulations for you and Carol's news. I'm delighted for you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure to come here, as always, and talk to you, talk to Niall. It's a dream come true always for me.
I gotta ask, Guilherme, first of all, the performance Anderson put in, I thought he looked really, really good on Saturday night in the main event against Uriah Hall. What did you think of the performance? I know he didn't get his hand raised, but it was pretty good stuff from Anderson, I thought.
Yeah, considering he was fighting at top 10 in the UFC, you can say it was a good performance, but when you were so used to watching him fight for so long and dominate everyone, you can start from thinking that the Anderson Silva in his prime would not let this fight go out the first round, you know. So that's a bit disappointing. But okay, he's 45. You can debate if he should be fighting still. But yeah, it wasn't a bad performance, but he didn't do anything. And I think Uriah Hall didn't do anything either. Uriah Hall was very sensitive in the first and second rounds. He wasn't doing anything. And when he decided, okay, I'm gonna fight Anderson Silva like he's any other human being, he just knocked him out. And he knocked him down in the final seconds of the third round, and then just finishing the fourth. So I think this fight lasted 4 rounds because Uriah Hall was very timid in the first 3 rounds actually, except for the final seconds of the third. But yeah, so I think it's more like Anderson Silva fought okay because Uriah Hall wasn't doing much, you know.
What was the reaction like in Brazil? Was this a big deal in Brazil? It certainly felt like big in the MMA bubble, but was this something that general sports fans were talking about in Brazil, that Anderson Silva was fighting for the last time in the UFC?
Yeah, it was a huge deal in Brazil. Global is like the biggest network in Brazil, and they own the rights for the UFC events. They are on pay-per-view. And all week, last week, Global had different interviews with Anderson Silva, a lot of TV specials every day, at least like 2-3 times a day. In every news shows and sports shows, they had a lot of coverage for this fight. It was a huge deal here in Brazil. So yeah, we don't have access to the numbers, but yeah, I think Global did probably did a lot of money with that fight here in Brazil. I don't, and of course, it doesn't compare to his prime, his days as UFC champion. But going into this fight, it was a big deal, way bigger than his last 2 fights in the UFC for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, Guilherme, what has been the reaction to the defeat in Brazil, and what was really said from Dana White and Anderson Silva? Because it's a little bit conflicting. Anderson has said, you know, he's going to have to go home and talk about it, and Dana's obviously said that he doesn't want Anderson to fight again in the UFC, even though he's 1 fight remaining on his contract.
Yeah, in Brazil, I mean, the loss was kind of expected if you have been following Anderson's career. I know the casuals, they probably thought Anderson Silva is going to win because they have no idea who Uriah Hall is. But yeah, I mean, then the things Dana White said, they are the things that people here in Brazil think too, that Anderson Silva shouldn't fight anymore. So I don't think it was a big outrage of, oh, look at what Dana White, look at what he's saying, because we've been seeing Anderson Silva for the past, I don't think, 7 years or 8 years, and many losses and just 1 win. So yeah, I think pretty much everyone agrees that Anderson Silva shouldn't be fighting anymore, or at least should be fighting against elite competition, top 10, top 15. Just give him someone that he can go there and he has a legit shot at winning.
I thought it was quite hypocritical of Dana coming out after the fact and saying, like, this guy shouldn't be fighting. All week All week you're telling us this
He's
is
unreal, isn't he?
the best guy in the history of the UFC. Come in and tune in and see Anderson's last fight. Then as soon as it's over, he doesn't make a show of himself. He doesn't embarrass himself in the
done.
fight, and he's like,
Gone.
oh, he's done. What are we doing here? I told him he should never fight again. You fucking put him in the main event, Dana.
Yeah,
What's
it's
your
crazy.
problem? Is that not a bit crazy for you to hear?
No, 100%. He was treating Anderson Silva like he did with BJ Penn. Like
Yeah.
BJ got in there and lost to everyone. Anderson Silva's fighting at top 10. His last fight was against Judge Cannonier. I mean, he's a guy who was a win away from a title fight, but lost to Robert Whittaker. So it's like, I mean, he's not fighting. It's not like Anderson Silva's fighting someone who just got in the UFC. He's fighting the fighters, and he lost to them. But okay, so if you think Anderson Silva shouldn't be in the UFC, shouldn't be in the octagon fighting, just give him someone who's 1 and 2 in the UFC. You know, doesn't put him there against someone who's on a winning streak, someone who can clearly knock him out. So choose better his competition that instead of coming here and say, "Oh, I knew he should be fighting. That's why he gave him Uriah Hall, who can kick his ass." Kick him in the head and knock him out easily, you know.
Unbelievable stuff.
It's Dana White, so it's
Nothing.
we know what's expected.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we never know what's going to come out of Dana's mouth next, and I think it was nothing surprised me with that man anymore. But listen, I think, you know, and we look at Bellator's model over the last number of years. They've sort of picked up a lot of the sort of older fighters. Do you believe that's maybe an area Anderson Silva might go after the UFC if Dana does stick to his word? Because you obviously have potential matchups there that I think, you know, Bellator could definitely sell and make some money. You know, the likes of Gegard Mousasi, someone like that. Is that something you could envisage Anderson Silva doing, moving to Bellator MMA?
Yeah, I've talked to some people around Anderson Silva for the past few days and weeks. Some said that he wants to fight again before the fight, obviously. That it wasn't his last fight. That he was down to fighting outside of the UFC. That was the UFC's choice. But yeah, he has one last fight in his contract with the UFC. And if Anderson Silva says, "Okay, I want to fight again," and Dana White says, "I'm not giving you a fight," so Dana White has to release him or at least pay him out of his contract. And but if Anderson says, "I want to go out and I want to continue fighting, and I will continue fighting if you let me go," I don't think Dana White's gonna let him just walk away and go to Bellator. You know, I think he's gonna give him another fight. Of course, he's not gonna and so just go away. I think he's gonna re-sign him if he gets to that point that Anderson Silva saying, "I want to fight again." He's not gonna let Anderson Silva fight out of his contract because he's a huge name. Bellator would do what I think should be done with Anderson Silva now. Just give him easier matchups and let him do what he does. Let him score highlight heel finishes and great knockouts. So just treat him like a legend, you know. Book him with another legend, another veteran, or just give him easier matches so he can win and you can make money with him.
I am a bit worried about what Dana said in regards to, as you just said there, he kind of has Anderson by the balls here because he can't, I mean, he has the fight left in his contract, so he's not free to negotiate with other people. Do you see this being a drawn-out process where they keep holding him into this contract but not offering him fights, and which will lead to a very frustrating situation for Anderson, I suppose, because I just didn't like the way Dana wouldn't say he'd release him from his contract if he isn't going to fight in the UFC again. It just feels like there's a lot of things up in the air there, and UFC have not been very fighter-friendly in the past in situations like this.
Yeah. I mean, Dana White always says that he's obligated to offer fights to fighters. I don't know what kind of deal he has with Anderson Silva. That's something more specific that he wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't be obligated to offer him fights after this one. But I mean, if he has to offer fights, and Anderson Silva says he wants fights, so he has no other options but give him fights. So I mean. But I don't think Dana would give him easier fights. I think he would like to use Anderson Silva's name to build someone else, like he did with Uriah Hall. I don't think he would be just giving him easier matchups, so he would just ride up to the sunset, and retire off a win. He would just like build someone else again using his name. Who knows?
Do you know what?
My
idea is, Guilherme.
Things you can't understand really.
Do you want to hear Petey's?
I have an idea here. Okay, I think
Yeah.
Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. are going to fight, and I think Roy Jones Jr. is going to win the fight, and then I think Anderson Silva is going to challenge Roy Jones Jr. to a boxing match. How possible do you think that is?
Yeah, I had the same idea before the fight. Dana White saying he has something in the plans for next year and Zuffa boxing. That's the fight.
Yeah.
You do Roy Jones and Anderson, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Zuffa wants that. He's always wanted that. He mentioned before the fight he would be down to do it. That he wasn't ruling out this idea of boxing. And if Roy Jones beats Mike Tyson, that's a money fight for the UFC to kick things off with Zuffa boxing. Who knows? It's not Conor Pacquiao or things like that, but yeah, it's a legends fight, and people would definitely pay for that.
Dana will definitely try, I think, to make some money out of one fight remaining on a contract and the most money possible.
Yeah,
that could be a
and
likely
it's
option.
weird because Anderson Silva, Dana White saying I should be giving him a fight, and now in 3 months, putting him there against the fight.
He's improved so much. But Guilherme,
should be fighting again, but he's boxing now. It's different,
Guilherme, when I think about Anderson Silva's career, I always saw him as the greatest during the height of his career. But I have to say, ever since the positive drug test, I can't view his career in the same way. But I'm just wondering, how is he viewed in Brazil? Like, is MMA big enough that the people on the street know that this man has failed drug tests, or is he just regarded as a great legend? Like, he doesn't strike me as a person that isn't nice. I think he's a really nice guy, but it's just the fact that this is hanging over his career for me makes me reluctant to put him in the greatest argument. Same as John Jones. It's GSP for me all day long. So I'm wondering what does the normal Brazilian on the street feel about Anderson Silva?
It's been a while since the doping cases, and so I don't think people remember that outside of our MMA bubble and casuals that following here and there when there are big fights coming up. So I mean, all week people were saying, "Oh, he's a legend, greatest of all time," and things like that. I think he's still viewed that way despite the doping cases by the majority. Of course. Some people that hold that against him, so it's not unanimous here in Brazil. But I wrote a story last week. I spoke with 60 fighters, former champions, promoters, trainers, and all of them were saying like Anderson Silva is the legend, one of the greatest of all time. This is not the greatest of all time, but so yeah, there are mixed feelings about this because. Of course, yeah, he failed a drug test that's not good, but he was fighting in an era that drug tests wasn't so strict as they are now. So, and Anderson Silva has fought some fighters that later on in their careers have also failed the drug test or were on TRT and things like that. So it's not like Anderson Silva was the only one doing it, Just like people saying, "Oh, back in Pride days." Oh, this guy was a champion. He was using it. Okay, but who wasn't? So, yeah, it's
very true.
He was gonna carry that black cloud over his head for the rest of his life, of course.
Yeah. Can
you guys have such a rich history in MMA, Guilherme. I mean, the foundation of the sport is rooted in Brazil. But how different is Brazilian MMA history if there is no Anderson Silva?
Anderson Silva changed everything. I mean, with that fight with Vitor Belfort, he changed everything. It was getting bigger. People were getting more interested in it. But the thing, that fight, because Vitor Belfort was way more popular than Anderson Silva, and doing that against him, turned himself into a bigger star. So So that fight changed everything. It wasn't anywhere close that before the fight than it got after. It was insane. I've been covering this since 2008, and when I started, when I told people I was covering MMA, they had no idea what it was, and after that, and slowly started to change, but after that fight, it got crazy.
Wow.
Everybody, for that fight, it wasn't so common for people to just buy pay-per-views in Brazil. So my friends would usually go to my house to watch it for that fight. So I just had like 5 friends coming over to watch it. But for that Vitor fight against Anderson, there was like 30 people there just to watch that fight because it was a huge deal.
Wow. Is Anderson still, in terms of, popularity, we Jose Aldo with Conor McGregor and the whole year-long bloody media tour that went on, is Anderson Silva still in Brazil by far and away the most well-known and recognized fighter, even ahead of the likes of Wanderlei Silva, Jose Aldo, and as we mentioned there, Vitor Belfort?
Yeah, no doubt. Because Vitor is famous for other reasons too, but Anderson Silva is the number one name in Brazil, no doubt about it. Bigger than Jose Aldo, bigger than Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, Big Nog, Wanderlei Shogun, everyone else.
Wow.
After that fight, he did beat them in Brazil because Brazilian fans love champions. They don't like sports. They like soccer, football, and other than that, they love champions. Brazil, when Gustavo Kuerten became champion in tennis, everybody loves tennis now. So everybody's like playing, everybody's like watching everything. Oh, okay, no, I love tennis. I've always loved tennis. You're a newbie, But and then boxing with Marcelino Freitas, and list goes on and on with any other sports. So when Anderson Silva came, of course he was a champion before, but when people found out that he was a champion because he kicked Vitor Belfort in the face, then everybody loves MMA, everybody loves the UFC, everybody loves Anderson Silva. Oh, I've been a fan since UFC 1 and things like that. Yeah.
What would you like to see happen here, Guilherme? What? Like, I mean, you've covered the guy more than anyone. I mean, you've seen the impact he's had in the country. If you were in charge of Anderson Silva's career and you could decide what happens next, what would be your move?
I mean, I think he should start fighting a long time ago. But since he's doing it, if he wants to come back, just fight someone easier, And if you lose to someone that, outside of the top 20, top 30 in the UFC or Bellator, things like that, just go home. Just go enjoy your family. He has a lot of money. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need money anymore. He doesn't need it. So, but yeah, I think the Anderson we saw fighting Saturday, he would win a fight against someone outside of the top 20 in the UFC, top 15. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see because we were used to seeing him doing it for so long and be such dominance, such a mythical fighter. But so it's kind of sad to see. But if he wants to fight, so just please be more smart with selecting who you're fighting next.
I thought in the first couple of rounds he actually looked quite sharp. And then he sort of faded. But listen, you must have a memory, Guilherme, a favorite moment in Anderson Silva's career. What's your standout moment?
It's the Chael Sonnen fight, the first one.
Yeah,
that was incredible because when the 5th round started, and I was like, okay, he has to finish the fight or lost, otherwise he's no longer the champion. And Chael Sonnen talked so much crap, and then Anderson Silva slips and fell. He wasn't knocked down or anything like that; just slipped and fell. At that moment, I thought, okay, it's over. He's not getting back up after this. We saw 4 rounds of that before. He's not getting back up, and was just over. And then he gets that triangle. That was insane. That was insane.
Amazing.
For me, that was the number one moment. The Vitor knockout was amazing. That was incredible, but I kind of expect him to win. So it was okay. I knew he would win. The finish wasn't amazing, but the chill fight, for everything that was happening before the fight and in the actual fight, him losing round after round and then winning like that, that was the number one moment for me. And in person, I've watched him fight live, I think 3 times, in Rio, against Okami and Stephan Bonner, and the loss to Cannonier. The Stephan Bonner one was was so incredible because, of course, he was going to win, but he just keeping his hands low and going back to the cage to let Bonner do whatever he wanted. That was surreal to watch. It was like, what the fuck is doing that? It was so amazing to watch.
Ah, yeah, unbelievable fighter. What a talent.
Well, that's all we've got for you, Guilherme. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. And you can check out all Guilherme's work at MMAfighting.com. He is the best in the business. There is no doubt about that. And I didn't know of anyone better to get on the show to talk about the great Anderson Silva than you. So thank you so much, Guilherme.
The Yamas like it hard for you. Thank you very much.
Hello, guys. If you want to hear more of The Bash, you can subscribe to us on all our wonderful channels on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and all that other shit.
And click the links below. Click the links below, the notification button. It comes straight to your phone if we've any fresh content. And also hit the subscribe button. It does help. You're some plonker.
It's very serious.